Welcome to Coffee Break with Rachel Vigil, taking a daily look at the biggest stories in Denver sports and interacting live with you, the Coffee Break fam. So sit back, relax, grab a cup of joe, and enjoy your coffee break. Here's your host, Rachel Vigil.
It's very rare that we don't do an episode of Coffee Break on a weekday, but when the Broncos are having Sean Payton and George Payton talk at the exact same time as your show, you say, hold up, we're going to postpone and move to the next day to talk about what the heck is happening. And I'm excited because Cecil Lammey was hanging out with me as well yesterday. Cecil, how are you?
Oh, it's fantastic to be here. We will know who the Broncos quarterback is a week from today.
Isn't that crazy? Well, let's hope. Because they didn't give me too much faith yesterday that they're going to be rolling with the quarterback. Now, of course, you never know. Are you blowing smoke and trying to not let people in on what you're going to do? They're predicted to draft a quarterback, which you kind of have to do because you don't have a quarterback right now. Mm-hmm. But George Payton yesterday did not give me any hope that, yes, they were 100% dialing in on a quarterback with that number 12 pick.
Yeah, and that's what Georgia should do, I think it's interesting based off my question and they're back and forth for 4 minutes.
Okay, let me just set the scene for everyone. Yeah. I just need to.
Okay.
Cecil asked the question that you asked, and I'm just going to set the scene afterwards. It was a great question.
Take us inside the war room. How do you guys break ties?
Great question. All of a sudden, they're going back and forth on essentially how they break a tie. And they're not really answering. Their only thing they agreed on in the entire, it was like a 3-minute rant, was that they try to have all the scenarios done before actually draft night. That was the only thing that they somewhat agreed on. It was so funny. I almost reached back behind my chair. Cecil was sitting behind me. I was in the first row and I almost fist bumped Cecil because I was like, this was such a good answer and just a good question in general.
Yeah. And I think that during that answer and the one-upsmanship that you saw, it was like George finally revealed, hey, sometimes Sean says, go get a guy.
Yeah.
And we go get a guy. So does Sean say go get a guy, not at 12, but moving up to 3 or 4 or 6?
I was just about to bring that up. Okay, so let's talk about it because the Giants GM comes out and says that they have a lot of confidence still in Daniel Jones. So that opens up 6 if they're looking to trade out of it. If they're not going to draft a JJ McCarthy or whatever, well, that opens up 6 to be in the conversation, correct?
Yes, 1,000%. Now they want a wide receiver. The whole show for quarterbacks is kind of a ruse, except there's one thing. The player that they've done, the New York Giants have done the most work on, I'm told by league sources, is Bo Nix. Now it's not Bo Nix at 6, but it could be Bo Nix at 12 for them if you move up to 6. Now they want a wide receiver. They want to give Daniel Jones more weapons around him, and they're still expressing confidence, although I don't believe that. I don't believe Brian Daboll has that confidence because they want Bo Nix in the 2nd or at the end of the 1st. So it's like, okay, they're kind of playing the game as well. But this whole idea that the Giants would take JJ McCarthy or they would take Drake May, nope. That is false from what I've been told. And the January information, once again, is correct. They're going to go wide receiver if they stay put at 6.
Okay, so now does that open it up, and are you still hearing that JJ McCarthy is the most likely quarterback the Broncos can land?
Yes, that's the most likely. Drake May has struggled in the interview process, from what I'm told, not with the Broncos, so don't think this came from the Broncos information. I know you don't, but for the viewing audience out there,
everyone else.
Just teams that I'm talking to say May was not impressive. And I had one team particularly tell me if there's a faller in this class, it could be Drake May. And I don't know if I necessarily believe that just based on his natural talent. And Minnesota loves Drake May. Mm-hmm. So did he fail with Minnesota's interview? Well, we're going to find out because if they take JJ McCarthy instead, we're going to know that Drake May did fail in his interview process with the Vikings. But they love him physically. They have his old high school coach, Josh McCown, on staff under Kevin O'Connell. So that just makes a bunch of sense. JJ McCarthy would be the guy. And if you're the Broncos, don't wait around at 12. Mm-hmm. Move up even a little bit to Tennessee's pick, to Atlanta's pick, and get your guy, get JJ McCarthy. It's a possibility that he could be the 4th quarterback off the board and somewhere in the top 10 to, I believe, the Denver Broncos.
And you don't have to move up to number 4. That was all the big rumors, right? A few weeks ago of, they're going to trade up to go with the Cardinals pick because the Cardinals don't need a quarterback, etc. There's starting to be less and less quarterbacks needed. They're all pretty much still needed in the top 10, but it does provide a little bit of extra wiggle room in there that maybe you're not giving up 3 first-round picks or whatever it is, and Pat Surtain and, a left finger or whatever it's going to be to be able to move up that far. Because if you move into that 8 or 9 spot, 7 or 8, what's Atlanta? 8?
8, yeah.
I was going to say, maybe you're not giving up as much as you would have to if you moved into number 4.
Right. And New England's the key here. That's where the draft starts. But I love it, Rachel, because all this stuff happens in April. And again, I don't answer many questions on Twitter. It's, again, it's just my approach to social networking. But, when the questions come in, what do they get? What do they have to move up? Like, okay, when guys are on the clock, when teams are under the pressure of having now you have to make the decision.
Yeah.
All this stuff evaporates, right? All the stuff we heard in April, the month of lies, evaporates because now you're on the clock. Yeah. Are you going to take JJ McCarthy? For a lot of these teams, the answer is no. They're going to tell you, we really like McCarthy. They don't. They like Rome Odunze more, or Marvin Harrison Jr., or name Joe Altz, name a player. There's plenty of other options out there for these teams. So the dance is almost over. The time for games and the charade of this pre-draft process is almost over.
Oh, Cecil, I know this is your favorite time of the year, and I love that for you, but I am so sick of all of the lies and the storylines that you're following and the hundreds and hundreds of mock drafts that are out there. When, again, Sean Payton and George Payton literally may not know what they're going to do at 12 because they don't know how the board is going to fall. So the mock drafts always make me laugh a little bit because, yes, it's a great guess. And it's almost like a March Madness bracket, right? You're just kind of throwing different pins, hoping one will stick. And maybe we should all start doing just mock drafts and having those type of brackets go out there. But I'm so ready for them just to figure out what the heck they're going to do at 12. I'm sick of the conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's done. It's over. We got a week left of this, less than a week left. And I love how Sean's following people on Twitter or say hey, is this guy in Tucson said something that's real close to what we know?
That was the funniest bit from yesterday's pre-draft press conference.
Yeah. I want to have a podcast of Sean Payton reviewing podcasts.
You know what was interesting? I mean? Oh, first of all, me too. I would love that. Also, yeah, that was a great quote from George Payton being I don't listen to as many podcasts as Sean does. There were so many good things, which made me do believe that they have a pretty solid relationship. I know it's been it's pretty rocky or whatever. It was interesting, and I always pay attention to the body movements of different people as they're listening to reactions, and it never felt like George Payton was oh, what is Sean gonna say? Right? It felt like they were very much on the exact same page, and they've spent a lot of time together in the last couple of months figuring out what their draft board is going to look like.
Right. And that's the thing. George is a grinder. Sean loves that about him. So does the working relationship continue? I don't know. It depends on what George does. Can George pull off a deal? Because the guy that'll get blamed if they can't move up for JJ and someone leapfrog the Broncos and they get JJ and it's a disaster. The guy that gets blamed is George Payton.
True.
So George, do what Sean wants to do. And listen, he's a grinder. He's going to know those guys. I love for me personally, probably nobody else, but for me, when they were talking about we've got some buckets in the 5th round, and I'm going through my head okay, it should be this guy, should be Luke McCaffrey, should be Mo Kamara. There's some 5th round players that are really significant because, as I've often said, your 7th rounder can be a 1st rounder.
Yeah.
This whole idea of oh, the draft's over for this round. And I get what Sean was saying yesterday. It is very exciting for the fans for the first 15 picks.
Yep.
And then it's just whatever. And I've studied this. I know who those talented players are. I can tell you undrafted guys right now that I believe will be Pro Bowl players. Okay. That's my job. That's what I do.
Yeah.
But that's also what the Broncos do. So you can find that 1st rounder in the 5th rounder. You can find that 1st rounder in the 7th round, in the undrafted free agent pool. So find that talent. That's what George's job is. And he needs to be bold and look for elite traits. When he says there's 7 or 8 quarterbacks, I'm thinking, okay, who's past the top 6? Because the top 6 could go in the 1st round. Mason and I discussed it yesterday, and he said, well, it's Michael Pratt and it's Spencer Rattler. Spencer Rattler's not elite. There's nothing he does that is elite. He's not good. Joe Milton, however, can throw 85 yards. That's elite. So that, to me, would be the 7th or 8th quarterback for that team.
Okay, I have a question on the Spencer Rattler thing.
Sure.
How was he the number 1 quarterback to come out what was it, 2-3 years ago or whatever, and now you're saying no, it's not there.
It happens so many with high school players. I'll tell a quick tale. When I was hired by the Fan in 2007, my first paid radio gig, because I worked for 4 years with no pay. And the program director, Tim Spence, introduced me to Mike Evans and Sandy Clough, and he said, "This guy's the new John Riegel."
Okay.
Well, God bless John Riegel. I never got to meet John, but I listened to him and Adam Schefter when I was driving tractor in the country in the 90s. Okay. So this tells a tale how long ago it was. John Riegel knew guys back to high school. That's why he was such an inspiration to me as a sports radio enthusiast and as a listener, because he could just off the top of his head, this guy was the number 3, blah, 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 blah. I mean, it's like Phil Steele times 1,000, right? And I never got to meet John. He passed away before I was hired. And I follow in his footsteps. I will never be like him, but I did try to go back to high school and follow players. And I got like 3 years into doing that. And I was like, 75% of these guys just flame out.
Yeah.
75% of these, like, I'm the number 1 high school guy. And then he's selling insurance, right? It just never happened. So from a time standpoint, I just care about guys that are draft eligible. Hey, some freshman guy, I'll see him in 2 years.
Yeah.
He's 3 years in the college football ranks. But anyway, so like long story short is Spencer Rattler. Okay. What does he do that he's elite? Does he have elite accuracy? No. Does he have elite athleticism? No. Does he have elite arm strength? No. He turns the ball over a crap ton. And I wish I could cuss, but like, so that's never gonna, so he's a leader and he's got moxie. Yes, those do count. He was maybe the most consistent quarterback at the Senior Bowl. That does count, but I will go back to when I had to write up the quarterbacks at a certain Senior Bowl where Josh Dobbs was. And there was a team that asked me to write up and said, who's the most consistent all week? The answer was Nathan Peterman. Nathan Peterman's terrible. Probably the worst quarterback in the league, and he's still in the league. John Gruden loved him and still loves him, by the way. But like sometimes that just happens. So I from 20 years of doing this, Rachel, as the old guy in the room, I can tell you, like, sometimes those guys, like, they fall off. And if you don't have anything, Joe Milton, I take a chance on because that arm he's got the brain too. So it's like you got 2 elite things with Joe Milton. You have 0 elite things with Spencer Rattler. It is a joke. It is a waste of time. It is a fantasy for people out there who say, like, let's just get Spencer Rattler in the 3rd and let's go Broncos. Like, that doesn't answer anything, even with Sean Payton, helping the guy along.
Is it weird that I feel like I'm going to get some hate for saying this? None of these quarterbacks like excite me for training camp. Is that like none of them that I know the Broncos could get? Like Jaden Daniels does excite me for a training camp, but the Broncos can't get Jaden Daniels. Is that I don't know why that is, but I'm just not like, oh my gosh, like everything's about to change. Like things are gonna, go back to the old ways of how it should be. I don't feel that, and I'm not exactly sure why I don't feel that.
I believe it's a combination. Like JJ McCarthy is a 2nd-round graded player to me.
Yeah.
They could take him at 3. And you know what I'd be? I'd be excited. Why? Because I believe in Sean Payton. Now, perhaps my trust is misguided and I should not, and I totally shouldn't buy it, but he's got a track record. And it's all the ego, all the bravado, all the arrogance. It's all about him. Good. You're putting it in the hands of someone who's done it multiple times and has a Super Bowl championship. So if you're going to take a chance on that, that's a pretty good chance to take on. So with McCarthy, and let's grade this, okay? Caleb Williams, let's say, is a 10, right? Out of 10. Matt Eberflus is like a 1. So you have an 11. Sean Payton is a 10 out of 10, and JJ McCarthy, maybe he's a 5. Well, that's 15. So now you have 15 compared to 11 for Chicago. Caleb Williams is a generational talent. Yeah, Chicago's going to screw him up. Jaden Daniels is, a 10. Well, what's Cliff Kingsbury? 3?
I was going to say a 3.
Yeah. So if you put it together, because remember, it's the fit. You're not only drafting a quarterback, you are selecting Sean Payton's partner. And it's that partnership that can help get the Broncos back. That's the partnership I believe in, whether it's Bo Nix and Sean Payton or JJ McCarthy and Sean Payton.
Yeah. And that's the thing, the partnership, right? I still get caught up. Like I think a lot of Broncos country does of, oh, he was going to be the savior and fix Russell Wilson. Well, that failed. And so now it's like, well, why did it fail? Is Sean Payton not as good as what we wanted to? We know Russell Wilson's not as good as he was when he was in Seattle. That whole thing can be a whole other podcast episode. I know we could deep dive into that, but there's just the one thing that you're like, oh, I have to believe a little bit, but I'm not 100% on board yet.
You know what's funny about that is Sean Payton is so good he could win with Russell Wilson. Like
You think if
that's
they would have had 2 more years?
well, here's the thing. He flipped a switch during the year last season.
Yeah.
He started out, let's try to do some stuff. Russ can't do it. Sorry, he can't run sale concepts, can't read the middle of the field, he can't do it.
Yeah.
And then Sean flipped the switch. I think to show Greg Penner, like, let me show you what I can do with this guy. I tried for 5 games, they're 1 or 5, whatever. I tried doing it my way. Let me flip the switch. Let's run the ball. Let's change some stuff defensively. And then that's when they started winning games. It's actually the downfall of their season. They shouldn't have done that. They should have benched Russ, traded Sutton, traded Simmons, traded Judy, like all that stuff. But either way, Sean did this to say, okay, here's what I try to do with what I want to do. Russ can't do that. Here's what Russ can do. And see, you can win and you can be around in the playoffs and all that, but you can't be elite. Yeah. Sean Payton wants to be elite. For all the fans that are like, just wait and get Shedeur, and like Pat Shurmur's going to ruin Shedeur. Like, okay, and I don't want that to happen, but let's look at the track record. It's not there for a guy like Pat Shurmur. So this whole fantasy of like Sean Payton doesn't want to lose. Yeah. You're not going to be in position unless you trade a bunch of stuff to move up for Shedeur Sanders. That's not going to happen next year. So he wants to win now. He sees guys that he can win now with and start building towards that future. And I think that young man is JJ McCarthy.
Interesting. Okay. What else did you find to be the most interesting conversations that came out of yesterday?
Yeah, we talked about it in our YouTube short or our little.
Also, Twitter. I love everybody who was commenting on your mane. The volume that we had on the hair yesterday, Cecil Lammey.
Hey, we could do a hair podcast as well, but it's the use of AI. Now, I've also found out, because as I mentioned, I was talking to some teams yesterday. I talked to 3 teams after the Broncos press conference, and I had found out that teams like the Philadelphia Eagles do use AI. They use it as a predictive measure to see what other teams have done in the past based on their needs. So it's interesting what you feed it. If anyone's messed around with ChatGPT, it's like what you feed it is what it gives it back to you. So you have to feed it the right things, and you'll be shocked at what it can. And I believe, and Gary Vaynerchuk said this, so Gary V said it, AI won't replace humans. It'll replace humans that don't use AI. So whatever industry that you're in, whether it's writing YouTube scripts or writing titles and descriptions for YouTube or whatever, stuff like what we do, or with what the NFL does, you're not going to get replaced by AI, but it's going to replace you if you're not familiar with AI. So mess around with ChatGPT. It's kind of fun. I always ask ChatGPT how she's doing. I assume that it's a she, because I feel like maybe some people are just rude to ChatGPT. So maybe that's just me being weird, but like, it's interesting. It's interesting to note that the Broncos are at the forefront of doing this, and also interesting to note the best GM in the game, in my opinion, Howie Roseman, does it as well.
First of all, I didn't even think about doing that, of looking at what other teams have done when they've had the needs that they have now and figuring out which way they've gone. Fascinating. And yeah, AI can give it to you in 20 seconds.
Like that.
That is insane. How smart. How freaking smart. Yeah, I got to give all these guys credit. I know they dive into anything, any scenario, but yeah, when you think about stuff like that. Cecil Lammey, they're very, very smart, just like you are, my friend. Anything you got big coming up here in the next 24 hours?
Yeah, I'll make sure, double check, make sure he can join me. But coming up on Orange and Blue today, at a special Friday edition, and I'm just checking my text messages
I feel like
now.
I think you just need to tease it. I don't think you need to say who it is.
So say who it is or don't say who it is?
I don't think you should. I think you should make people tune in. I think you could give a few little hints to who it is and make it a little fun.
Okay. How do you find elite talent late or undrafted? Well, I've consulted the no-fly zone and you're going to see it on Orange and Blue Today, coming
Woo!
up at 4 p.m.
So exciting, Cecil. I hope you have the best time sitting down and chatting with that one. Also, great tease, by the way. Hopefully, GPT. It's a Friday, thank goodness. Even though it's not really a Friday, I was looking at my schedule. I'm like, oh, Nuggets tomorrow night, Avs Sunday night, back at it Monday, head to the draft Wednesday. It's playoff season as well, but it's also draft season. So things are about to get crazy, which means you should tune into denversports.com, of course. We'll have all the updated news for you. Cecil's been doing wonderful analysis over there as well. Also, Cecil, would you like to do the promo for our contest so people can come hang out with us?
Yeah, come hang out with us and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That really helps us out. And about 51% of our viewers are not subscribed. So I know there's a lot of you out there. You can enter for a chance to win. I believe May 10th is the deadline, where you can come to the studios, hang out with us, watch Coffee Break, watch Orange and Blue Today, watch The Drive with Zach and Phil. Lunch will be provided as well. So a nice subscriber contest. The Little Brothers Barbecue for you goes a long way. So subscribe to our YouTube channel and make sure to comment down below. It always helps the YouTube algorithm. YouTube really likes us, and we know that Denver sports is growing, and we certainly appreciate everyone for doing that.
For sure. So make sure you subscribe. May 10th is going to be the last day for that contest. Cecil, I appreciate you as always. I hope you have the best interview today, 4 p.m. on our YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Make sure you tune in and check it out, and then have a wonderful weekend, everybody. We'll see you later. Bye, everyone.